Ladies and gentlemen, as we begin today's program, please welcome the Mount Mission School Choir as they sing the national anthem. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of our founder, Jim McLaughlin, as well as the entire membership at the Old Farm, we welcome you. Thank you for being with us today. I would also like to thank Mount Mission School Choir for that wonderful rendition of the the national anthem, and also thank them for getting up especially early this morning to drive down from Grundy. I'd also like to thank our local and state government officials who are joining us today, as well as our community business leaders, as well as our friends in the media. Thank you for being here and taking time out of your schedules to join us. I would also like to extend a special thanks to the United Company. They are one of our major sponsors. I'd also like to extend a special thanks to Gregory Pharmaceuticals, the makers of Blue Emu, for their support. They're one of our major sponsors, as well as our title sponsor, Food City. I'd like to thank y'all very much for your support and being here today. We also have a number of viewers that are joining us via live stream. We'd like to welcome you to the Old Farm and thank you for being with us. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe the news that we have to share with you today will include something for each one of us to appreciate and look forward to. I would like to also introduce Mr. McLaughlin to share the rest of the details regarding our event. Please join me in welcoming our founder, Jim McLaughlin.
Thank you, Mark, and thank all of you for coming out here today. I won't try to mention any names, but I do want to thank our title sponsor, Food City, and our major sponsor, Gregory Pharmaceuticals. You've always been a big part of our community, and I can't tell you how much we appreciate what you're doing on behalf of the kids. Well, we've come to talk about the American legends for Mountain Mission and their children. So why would we have an American Legend tournament if it weren't for the children? So I'm going to talk about the reason for the tournament. Before I do, let me thank all the legends. There's 10 of them. You'll hear more about the tournament and those legends as we move forward today from Tournament Director Ted Wood. But I just want to talk about the school, Mountain Mission School. It's just about the most incredible place I've ever been, and if you haven't had an opportunity to go, I promise it will change your life if you spend one day over there, and all of you are invited. Excuse my voice, but I've got an allergy from red tide down in Naples, Florida. So I guess you have to have a little suffering if you're down there in the sun in the wintertime. But anyway, Mountain Mission School is really a very, very special place. And I went there 54 years ago to help start a basketball team, and I was a young attorney in Grundy, and I was supposed to be their coach. So I found out 3 things that day that were amazing. First of all, the Mountain Mission kids didn't know one thing about basketball. Second, to my dismay, I found out I didn't know anything about coaching. And thirdly, to my great satisfaction, I found out that the Mountain Mission kids were the neatest kids I've ever been around. They were mannerly, polite, willing to do anything, and so happy in life. They were just the greatest kids you've ever seen. And 54 years later, let me tell you, it's still the truth about them. They're just great kids. You would hardly imagine that there's any place that's got 250 to 300 children that are so with it and so different from what we see in America in a lot of places today. They are still polite, nice. They have a moral foundation given to them by the school, and it's a terrific bunch of children that deserve all of our support. Mountain Mission's almost 100 years old. It started in 1921. It started to take in some kids from the mountains when there was real distress over there. Over the years, has gotten better as the coal industry has prospered, or used to prosper, and they slowly began taking kids in from all over the country. Today, Mountain Mission is made up of children from all over the United States and a few from foreign countries. There's about 250 to 300 children, and they're there 24/7. They come as early as birth or a week or two after they're born, up to 10 or 12 or 14. And they stay there through the end of high school when they graduate. There's a faculty and staff of maybe 40 to 45 or 50 people. It goes back and forth a little bit, but they are there night and day 24/7 as well. The faculty and staff not only teach the school, cook the meals, help clean, wash the clothes, but they stay with the kids as mom and dad in each floor of the boys' dorm, the girls' dorm, and in toddler hall for the little ones. So there's a family living on each floor taking care of 15 to 20 children. They love these kids, but it's still great work, and it's missionary work, and it's not affiliated with any particular church, but they do have a moral foundation for these kids. And so that's hard work for this faculty, no matter how much they love them. And they make a very small amount of money, like $18,000 a year. So I want to give them a lot of credit for having raised such a great group of kids over the last almost 100 years. So the children graduate from high school. If they weren't at Mountain Mission or something like First Tee, let's say, 35% would graduate from high school. Now 95% of the kids graduate from high school right on time at Mountain Mission. And 95% of those go to college. And then 95% of those, I'm just using rough figures, graduate from college in 4 years. Think about 95% going on to college out of this school. That's just unheard of. No high school anywhere has that kind of rate. But that's Mountain Mission's success story. And they have done their work, the school has. And I say, and I'm going to say it several times here today, all of us who have been given much owe something back to children, at least children, and we might owe to a lot of other things, but children they need our help, and they didn't put themselves in the situation they're in. They just found themselves there. So we badly need to have help for them. Why are we having another tournament after we had the Big Three in 2010, which was so successful when we had Arnie, Jack, and Gary? And we're so sad that Arnie's not able to be with us any longer. I know he would be here in September if he were alive, but it was a great day when we had the Big Ten in June of 2010. We raised a lot of money, and with that $15 million that we raised, we put $6 million in a new academic building that they needed badly. The other $9 went into a endowment fund. And over the years, that endowment fund has grown to $15 million, which they have in it now. They get to use 5% of that endowment every year for operating expenses. And by our agreement from the endowment fund, which is separate from the school, they can't use more than 5 unless it's an extreme emergency. So that gives them roughly $750,000 a year. They raise another $1.5 million to $2 million from gifts from churches, individuals, and private companies. That gets them to somewhere like 2.2 to 2.5 or even 2.7 million. But it costs $15,000 a year for each child there to be fed, clothed, sheltered, and taught up through senior and high school and graduate. Not an extreme amount of money if you think what all they're able to do for this $15,000. So they have 2.5 to 2.7 a year, but they need $4 million or $4.5 million. And it used to come from the coal industry, which was very prevalent in that area. And we had a lot of coal companies that made enough money so they could make up that balance. Year after year, we'd go to them and get enough money. Well, there is no coal industry any longer. It's very small if there is much left. Why is that? Because of rules and regulations have been passed environmentally to push coal aside. But probably just as important or more important, natural gas has taken its toll on the coal industry. It's a cheaper fuel now. It's all over the country, and it appears there's an abundance of it. So we just don't have anybody to make up that difference. So now that's why we're going to have the American Legends Tournament to raise our endowment enough to be able to give them that $2 million a year that they need. So at 5%, we've got to have something like $40 million in the endowment. It's 15 right now, or maybe 50 even to do the job. So I'm telling you that we need to raise $35 million or 40 in this campaign to make sure that they're secure. And Chris Sloan, that you'll hear from just in a moment, as the president, could tell you if he wanted to that so much of his time is taken away from raising kids and teaching them and educating them, trying to raise the next dollar that they have to go forward the next week, the next month, or the next year. We've gotten it done for a few years, but we really need a more permanency to this school. And with the success they've had, I think they really deserve that, to get on and do their job rather than have to go beg for money day after day. So that's why we're raising the American Legends is so important as our next tournament to bestow that money on them or to give them the money. I want to thank the PGA Tour for once again sanctioning this tournament. You know, we had a record for the PGA Tour and all the tournaments they've ever had in the golfing world or anybody's had. We set a record in 2010, and we're very proud of that. The Old Farm has a lot of members who are so generous, and they recognize at this club, our club, that it's not just about golf and fun and entertainment for themselves. It is about service to others. We're so blessed, we understand that, and we remind each other of it all the time. And if we do our job and fulfill our obligation, our responsibility, it is in giving back. So we have a lot of members who are doing it. And right here, I want all of the committee, I'm not going to take the time to introduce each one of you, but those of you who are in the executive committee working on this from the Old Farm, would just stand for a minute and let us recognize you. John, Frank, Jeff, Erwin, and Don. So thank you, guys. We really appreciate it. I also want to thank Mark Eubanks, our general manager, who's put a lot of effort in this, and one of our members who is the tournament director, and he was in 2010 too, Mr. Ted Wood. Would you stand, Ted? You're going to come up here in a minute. But thank you, Ted, for all you've done. You will see we have received money already from a broad area of not only club members, but businesses and others who care about these children. And the ambition today is to get our start now and fulfill this goal of raising $35 to $40 million for the endowment fund. Again, I thank you for coming out. Thank you for listening to me and heeding my words and helping us to meet our goal. Thank you so much. I'm going to introduce you to the president of Mountain Mission School, who will tell you more about the school. He's there every day, 24/7. Chris Sloan, would you come up, please? Thank you very much.
I just want to thank Jim, and I want to thank everyone that's here today that's come out in support of Mountain Mission. We are humbled. And before I say anything else, I would like to show a video. So let's watch together.
In the rural mountain town of Grundy, Virginia, One innovative school is impacting thousands of kids who come from every corner of the U.S. and the world. Some have lost their parents, others have been abandoned, and many have come from extreme poverty or violent environments. Regardless of their background, all have found a loving home in the hills of Southwest Virginia. Throughout its nearly 100-year history, Mountain Mission School has cared for more than 20,000 children in need. Over the years, many generous hearts have come together to educate and enrich the lives of children at Mountain Mission.
Mountain Mission School is unique in its mission. We are both home and school to 250 children in need at any given time. There's not another institution like it so far as I am aware. We're providing a holistic approach to the raising of children. These are kids in need that are, through no fault of their own, struggling, falling through the cracks of society. Mountain Mission School is here to catch them.
Now you have the opportunity to join Gary Player, Jack Nicklaus, Lee Trevino, and other legendary personalities on the links at the Old Farm in Bristol, Virginia, in support of this important work. The American Legends for Mountain Mission Kids gives patrons the opportunity to golf alongside Jack Nicklaus, Lee Trevino, Gary Player, Lorena Ochoa, Tim Fincham, Lanny Wadkins, Betsy King, Jerry West, Dan Marino, and Peyton Manning. From toddlers to teenagers, Mountain Mission provides a stable home environment with shelter, clothing, nourishment, and high-quality education. Children in need are candidates for enrollment, regardless of race or religion, and come to thrive in a non-denominational, faith-based environment designed to provide long-term stability and success. Members of Mountain Mission staff live on grounds and serve not only as teachers, but also parental figures. Many have served at the school for decades, and in some cases came to Mountain Mission as children themselves.
A kid comes in and we are told that this mother is dropping off these two children. She has cancer. She will not see them again. She turns around and she leaves, knowing that she's never going to see her children again. And then those kids grow up and they choose whatever tools that we were able to provide for them. And then they go out and they one day tell us, ma'am, you know, sir, now I am a doctor. And, you know, we get to say to them, your mom would have been so proud of you. We hope that the kids, in the end, are able to do for others what was done for them here. And more than anything, it's to give them a hope. It's to give them sight to see that there is a future, that their past doesn't define their future. And so we hope that they can pay it forward.
Once their high school coursework is complete, 95% of Mountain Mission kids continue on to college. Those who maintain high grades and graduate within 4 years begin their careers debt-free with the assistance of the United Company Foundation. Nearly 100% of students achieve this milestone and go on to affect positive change in the lives of others around them. Mountain Mission School receives no federal, state, or government funding. All operational and maintenance costs are funded solely through charitable donations. The school's commitment to its students and proven record of success has garnered the attention of donors from all financial levels.
Kids get in your heart, and that just changes your direction completely. They're not a name. They're a person, and they have an identity, and they have goals and ambitions, and it's good to be a part of that and to see it come to fruition. I just sense when you show people a need and what you can do with what they're willing to give and what the end result will be, I think common sense sets in, and you just say, I want to be a part of this.
In 2010, Arnold Palmer, Jack Nicklaus and I gathered at the Old Farm to help raise funds for a new educational building. Thanks to our fellow participants, that tournament, known as the Big Three for Mountain Mission Kids, raised highest one day charitable total in PGA Tour history. Now, in the same way that Mountain Mission plans for the long-term livelihood of each student, the school is laying the foundations for another century of success. In September 2018, the old farm will again open its doors as Jack Nicklaus, Lee Trevino, and I host a full day of play and support of Mountain Mission's essential work. This event, known as the American Legends for Mountain Mission Kids, will give participants a chance to golf with us. Join us in the beautiful Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia for 18 holes of fun and competitive play on Monday, September the 10th. Practice and bring your best game, folks. The day's highlights will be captured by CBS and broadcast as a one-hour special courtesy of the PGA Tour. Funds raised from the effort will help create future sustainability for Mountain Mission, reducing dependence on annual donations and increasing the school's long-term financial stability. Build the memories of a lifetime. Be part of this legendary moment and help us cultivate the next century of success for Mountain Mission School.
Whatever may pass and whatever lies before me.
As Jim said earlier, since its founding in 1921, Mountain Mission has cared for thousands of children in need, and they include students from across the U.S. and over 70 different countries. It's a surprising and wonderful experience to hear all the voices and accents on our campus in Grundy. And as often as not, you get to hear these voices raised in laughter or song. That, to me, is a great treasure because our students come out of very difficult circumstances. Many have experienced poverty, violence, and loss. And if we shared some of their stories, you might be tempted to see them solely in terms of those experiences. But we don't look at them that way. We know their past does not define them, nor does it frame who they will become. We're very grateful for the opportunity to provide a stable home environment where they can discover a new family, experience restoration, and look forward to a vibrant future. From our very long and successful track record, we know that this kind of supportive atmosphere produces positive change. It's not always easy. We face a lot of challenges. But we know that we have a family of donors who give as they can, whether that's through volunteering, spending time in prayer, donating a few dollars a year, or in this case of this amazing tournament, helping set the course of the school for the next century. So to the thousands of generous hearts who have supported us in the past, as well as those who are joining us now, we say thank you. Not only are you helping uphold a physical campus of brick and mortar, you're constructing an environment of healing and hope. This is hard and important work, and we thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Chris. And just as I said a few moments ago, the American Legends, I'm so proud of the fact that 8 of the 10, Lorena and Betsy, have not been here to the club yet. But I assure you they'll get an invitation when they come in September, and I would believe there'll be new members at that point. I'm delighted for one of our very own, a long-term member of the club, Tim Fincham, to come up and just now. But let me say, Tim has been a friend for 25 or 30 years. You know, he was the commissioner of golf until PGA Tour golf until just like last year. He's retired now. He's also the creator of First Tee, and he's absolutely helped millions and millions of kids across the U.S. and really the world. And we all know him as Mr. Goff. He's a great person, and thank you for the sponsorship and for your interest, Tim.
Thank you, Jim. I'm delighted to be here in my ex-commissioner capacity on behalf of the PGA Tour today. And really, for very simple reasons. One, we all know about the Mountain Mission School going back 8 years ago when we learned about it. At the time, when Jim, who has been involved with the PGA Tour for a long, long time, and is a real visionary. He sees things that a lot of us don't see. For example, the farm. I've been to hundreds of golf courses, met with lots of architects, seen their work. There's nothing like this. And that's just one example of his uniqueness. But 8 years ago, when Jim said he was going to raise the kind of money that he was set out to raise, you know, I know certain people, you know, just said, well, this is going to be a great cause, we'll raise a lot of money. But Jim, I don't know if those numbers can work. But they did work. And those dollars from the big three went a long way to help Chris and his team do what we just saw in the video. I think we were somewhat helpful 8 years ago when Jim asked whether the PGA Tour would sanction this as a PGA Tour event. At the time, we didn't know the impact it would have, because when it was announced that this was the single largest fundraiser in the history of the PGA Tour, it had a very positive effect on what people in communities around the country think that they can do. One of the things about the PGA Tour is that, on the one hand, it's all about professional golf at the highest level, but secondly, at the same time, helping people. And we can help people most when folks in communities around the country understand and appreciate the potential that golf as a platform has to allow those projects to go forward with the kind of money that can be raised. And that was the example that was set 8 years ago. So we were delighted to sanction the event then, and we're delighted to sanction this new edition, which, again, the numbers that Jim is throwing out there as targets are incredible. But the reason we're so excited about it is that, number one, it's going to help a great cause, no question about that. Number two, it's a message to the country that these kind of things can happen, that if you get the right folks together, you have the leadership, you can make this kind of impact. And number three, specifically, it's a great message to clubs around the country. Clubs who look at what's happening here and say, boy, we have X problem in our community, we have X opportunity in our community, like First Tee, for example. Why don't we as a club do what the farm has done with Jim's leadership to really make an impact? And so those are the kind of things that drive charitable giving on the PGA Tour. My predecessor used to say that the PGA, and when the numbers were much smaller, the PGA Tour raises more money than all other major sports combined. And that's true. And when other sports want to raise money, what do? They have a golf tournament. So that has developed, but the potential out there is still great of what can happen going forward. And we just appreciate Jim's reaching out to us, allowing us to be involved. We take it very seriously. We're going to bring a lot of resources to tell the story, mainly about telling the story of what's happening here. And with that, I'll turn it over to a man who ran the tournament director 8 years ago. He did a phenomenal job. By the way, this is not the normal tournament. This tournament has a lot of moving parts. A lot of people need to be accommodated. The galleries were handled beautifully. I was delighted to be able to be here that day, a very special day, and maybe Ted Wood can tell us a little bit about this year's planning. Ted?
Thank you, Tim, for those nice words. And welcome again as you attending what we think is one of the most exciting events that's going to happen in our area for some time yet to come. One thing that I've just reminded of in speaking with Mr. McLaughlin prior to Tim finishing his remarks is that unfortunately, just about, what was it, Chris, 3 weeks ago, we had a very unfortunate incident at Mountain Mission. A fire, an electrical line fell on top of a major dormitory, and 125 kids are housed in that particular facility. This created a very, very serious incident. Everyone's safe, but a lot of people are displaced. That adds to our needs. So I want to at least bring you up to date, all of you that are here, as to why the need is even more profound. So this morning, you've heard the real essence of what we're about, what this great cause supports. I'm going to talk to you about three things. I'll do it. I'll be very brief. First of all, how did this originate? What starts this? That's an easy answer. I can point to this gentleman right here, Mr. Jim McLaughlin. It's his vision. It's his enduring support of what he believes is right and needed for the sustainability of Mountain Mission School. There it is. And he's already spoken to that quite eloquently. Second point I'll cover is with you a few details about the actual tournament. That's really what my charge is here this morning. And I'll fill you in with that. We won't go in deep into the grass on this, but at least so you have some feeling for what will occur on the day of the event. And lastly, I'm going to reveal the current status where we are with our fundraising. So this is really going to be the kickoff announcement. Maybe it will be the aha moment. We'll find out. You can decide that. We're providing you with our friends in the media with a lot of information this morning. You turn that to news, and that means a lot to us, and we thank you for that, spreading the word. So to begin with, there's a real difference in the event this time around. The big three consisted of just that, the big three. Player sponsors played one hole. So in a sense, this was not really a tournament. It was for good cause, and it accomplished what we set out to do. This time around, we do have a tournament. It's 18 holes of golf. The legends will serve as captains for their respective teams. The format of the tournament will be captain's choice. So there will be rivalry, there will be excitement, there will be awards at the conclusion of the tournament. Trophies will be handed over to the winning team, and the second and third place will be recognized as well. So there will be 10 teams consisting of the captain, the legend, and 4 sponsor players. So next, let's talk about the sequence of events. The night before the tournament itself, we're going to gather at the pavilion on the Old Farm property for a private dinner. And in attendance at that dinner will be the legends, of course, the captains, and along with the player sponsors and hole sponsors. So that's going to be a very social evening. I think that's where the real excitement and the competitive spirit comes out. And at the conclusion of that meeting, teams will be selected with blind draw. The captains will select, and the composition of the teams will be determined. On the day of the actual tournament, Mr. Eubanks will open the gates, at 8 a.m. Patrons will arrive. One of the first things they're going to encounter or learn about is a silent and live auction. We found this in the last tournament to be a very exciting, a very productive event, and it created a real electric atmosphere, if you will, prior to play starting. There'll be a lot of memorabilia available for patrons to bid, both in the silent and the live auction. This is I think is a very fun way to start the day. Throughout the day, the patrons will have full access to the property. They can follow their favorites. They can mingle. They can go about the property as permitted, of course. We have to have some areas secured for safety purposes and others. So at the conclusion, the trophy awards will be made to the first, second, third finishing teams. The total of the check, the funds raised for the event, that presentation will be made at the conclusion. And following that, the legends will participate in a press conference. That will wrap up the day. So now I want to talk just a bit, very briefly, the status. Where are we today in terms of our fundraising? Yes. I'm sorry? Yes, I'll make that observation. So please, if I could have the slide. This is the aha moment, ladies and gentlemen. We have already surpassed the outcome in terms of financial fundraising for the Big Three event. We are at the moment, as you see at the total, $17,075,000, and we're just beginning. Let me emphasize, this is not by any means our destination. You've already heard Mr. McLaughlin describe what we are seeking to raise in terms of funds. So we're off to a very formidable start without question. And there is another category that's missing here, and that is in terms of funds, and that's title sponsor, and that has been announced earlier. So you see other areas have a blank or two. There's a reason for that, because some of these activities haven't been launched, but they will be officially as of the conclusion of this press conference this morning. So with that, I'll close. One thing somebody mentioned to me earlier as we were coming in this morning: how do you make this happen? How does this work? Well, it works through an organization, and we create that organization after we're given the green light go and the startup, as I referred to earlier by Mr. McLaughlin. We have committees, and those gentlemen have been recognized here earlier. Most of them are seated over at this table. I would once again like to thank all of them, because they will become quite active now, starting tomorrow. So with that, thank you, Jim, for hosting the American Legends Tournament. Thank you, Tim Fincham, PGA Tour, for your assistance, by all means, the facilitation. And this is, I think, going to turn out to be something even greater than we could ever have anticipated. Jim's is such a wonderful venue for this event. It's all here because of you. Thank you. And with that, I'll conclude. And we're going to make great things happen. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ted. Ladies and gentlemen, as we conclude, I would like to say that the Old Farm is approaching 20 years, and we began with 50 founding golf members, and today we have over 350. We also have 200 social members that round us out. Our members represent a diverse group of people. They are leaders, philanthropists, entrepreneurs, and they are all united by a passion for the game of golf, as well as a passion for serving beyond self, as Jim had mentioned. I'm sure I speak for everyone involved in our tournament, those that are with us now, those that will join us, that we are very proud to be united once again on behalf of Mount Mission School. So before we conclude, I would like to ask Mount Mission School to join us for one final song. Ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for sharing your time with us this morning, and we trust you will join us on our journey to create sustainability for Mount Mission School. This concludes the press conference.